I always thought I knew Emily. We'd been married for 7 years, lived in the same house, ate at the same dinner table, and slept in the same bed. I thought I understood her quirks, her smiles, her silences. But I guess sometimes, you can live beside someone for years and still miss the deeper truths about them. That realization came crashing down on me one cool September afternoon, when I found something I was never meant to see. It started like any ordinary Sunday. I had just finished mowing the lawn while Emily was out shopping. Leaves were beginning to fall, and the sky had that soft orange hue that comes before a chilly evening. I headed back inside, sweaty and tired, and decided to toss my clothes into the laundry room. As I gathered up the laundry from our bedroom, I opened the bottom drawer of Emily's dresser, the one she usually kept locked. It had been left slightly open, and without thinking, I gave it a tug. I wish I could say I stopped myself. I didn't. Inside, I found a small collection of carefully folded lingerie. Not just any lingerie, but the kind you see in catalogs or boutiques you walk past and never enter. It was beautiful, elegant, and unfamiliar. I stared at the silky fabrics, the lace, the soft pastel colors, some bold reds and blacks too. I didn't recognize any of it. She had never worn any of these for me. Not once. Not even close. A lump caught in my throat. I wasn't angry. At least, not right away. I was confused, unsettled. I felt like I'd been dropped into someone else's life. Was she hiding something? Had she changed and never told me? A million thoughts flooded my mind. I shut the drawer gently and sat on the edge of our bed, feeling like I didn't belong in my own home. Later that evening, Emily returned with groceries. I tried to act normal. She kissed me on the cheek and asked about my day. I smiled, nodded, helped her put things away, and said nothing. But inside, the drawer loomed large in my mind. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept turning the thought over and over. Why had she kept that part of herself hidden? The next morning, I finally decided to say something. Over coffee, I looked at her and said, "Emily, can I ask you something a little personal?" She raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Of course." I hesitated. "I was doing laundry yesterday and found some things in your dresser. Lingerie. Ones I've never seen you wear." Her expression froze. She looked down at her mug, stirring the coffee slowly, as if buying time. Then she let out a long sigh and looked back at me. "I figured you'd find them eventually." "So, why?" I asked gently. "Why haven't you ever worn them? For me, I mean." She leaned back in her chair, looking older, somehow. Tired. "Because they weren't for you." That sentence hit me like a punch to the chest. I sat quietly, waiting for her to say more. "They were for someone I thought I might become one day," she said. "Not someone I was trying to impress or seduce. Just a version of me I never allowed to exist." I was stunned. "I don't understand." She got up and walked to the window. The light hit her hair just right. "When we got married, I thought being your wife meant I had to be a certain kind of woman. Reliable. Modest. Supportive. And I was. I still am. But there's a part of me I never explored. A part that wanted to feel beautiful and bold for myself. Those pieces. They weren't about you. Or anyone else. They were about reclaiming something I lost when I got too busy being everything for everyone else." I didn't know what to say. She wasn't defensive. She wasn't trying to hide. She was just honest. I felt embarrassed. Not because I'd found them, but because I had never even noticed she needed that. "Emily," I said after a long pause, "I wish you had told me. I would have understood. Maybe I could have helped." She turned around and smiled, but it was sad. "You've always been kind, Mark. But I didn't even understand it myself until recently." In the weeks that followed, I started seeing my wife in a new way. Not just as my partner, but as a person who had a whole inner world I'd never explored. I began asking more questions, listening more deeply. We started talking about our dreams, regrets, fears, the kind of conversations we hadn't had since we were dating. One night, Emily brought out one of those pieces. A soft lavender set with delicate stitching. She didn't wear it in a romantic way. She just held it up and said, I bought this 3 years ago in San Francisco. I remember standing in that boutique for 20 minutes debating whether I was worth it. You were, I said quietly. She smiled and nodded. I know that now. There was no dramatic shift in our marriage overnight. But little by little, we grew closer. She started painting again, something she'd given up after college. I joined a photography class at her suggestion. We began sharing more of our individual selves, not just the parts that made us a couple. Eventually, we even went on a weekend trip together, just the two of us, to the coast. We walked along the beach, talked about our younger selves, and laughed about how serious we used to be. On the last morning there, I woke up to find Emily sitting on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, the early sun touching her face. I used to think marriage meant giving up parts of yourself, she said, sipping coffee. Now I think it's about growing into more of who you are with someone who's paying attention. I reached for her hand. I'm paying attention now. She looked at me with a grateful smile and said, that's all I ever needed. Over the years, we still had our struggles, but something had shifted. We learned to meet each other in the quiet places, not just the obvious ones. I never looked at her dresser the same way again. Not with suspicion, but with admiration. Because in those delicate pieces of fabric, she had preserved a piece of herself. And instead of being hurt that she hadn't shared it sooner, I was honored that she eventually did. That drawer became a symbol not of secrets, but of self-love, identity, and the layers within a marriage that take time to uncover. Emily didn't owe me the version of herself she had locked away. She chose to show me. And in doing so, helped me discover more of myself too. Funny how something so small, something I thought was about someone else, turned out to be a mirror. And in that reflection, I finally saw what we both needed to see. The underwear she never wore for me, it turns out, it was never about me at all. And that was the most beautiful part of the story.